Yes, welcome. Today I'm going to take you with me on my journey basically over the past 5 years in a nutshell, what it all included, and basically the things that are mostly hidden from the people talking about it. Like the things that you won't basically hear often, I'm going to elaborate on today because I think all of the stories or most of the stories that has been shared by many people online who may be also in business or whatever they are pursuing, there are always things that are basically held behind. And I'm going to be completely transparent with this video. That's also why it's raw. And I'm going to basically explain how my journey was from the beginning because it's maybe not what you think it is. If you're maybe new to this channel and you think, who is this guy? What has he done? I'm in e-commerce. I'm doing business. Besides that, I basically am a family man, and I also do fitness, right? And what I would like to elaborate on today is basically the untold truth, let's say, about what most people have accomplished and basically how they have accomplished it. But what mostly has been, let's say, held behind are the, let's say, minor details, which are, in my opinion, very important for people to understand before you actually get into it. Because if you're, for example, new in business or you're an existing, maybe already, or you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you would like to start in business, there are always things that will basically come on your journey that you did not expect. And there were actually many things, even more than not, that came onto my journey specifically, which I would like to elaborate on. So that's basically what I'm going to talk about. And for example, in my case, the first 8 months of my journey by like stepping into a business. First of all, I've never been in business in my entire life before, but when I started in business, I basically oversaw like many things, and I thought, it's gonna be super good because this guy where I'm basically I'm learning from has done it, so I will do it myself as well. That's basically how I thought about it, and it's gonna be like easy, right? I basically wrote down some notes because I think I would like to just elaborate on all the things that, which I think are important for you to understand as well, if you would like to maybe start yourself. For example, for my journey is itself, like I'm right now 5 years into e-commerce. The first 8 months, honestly, were so tough, and you might think, yeah, that's just something I've heard before, but look, I was working in a cookie factory around my corner when I was living in the Netherlands. And that cookie factory, that was basically the one thing that kept me going unconsciously and maybe consciously, while actually struggling for more than 8 months. Most people right now, they see results quicker because there are more things available. There's more information available, like, for example, ChatGPT, all that kind of stuff, like allows you to get things, get answers on things way quicker, way faster, right? I didn't have that. And it doesn't mean that, I was not privileged at all or whatever. I was, for sure. But right now I see people like succeed in the first month. I see people, having success way quicker. But still those people are also having things on their plate what we do not see. And that's where I will elaborate on. So for example, for my 8 months, when I was working in a cookie factory and I was still a full-time student, I was living, of course, with my parents. It was basically a very, very hard time for me because the first 8 months I was making €4 an hour in the cookie factory, €4 and 72 cents, something it was. And before that, I worked in a metal factory. That was even worse. Like, you can better work with cookies than with metal, I can tell you that. But still, it was not, where I wanted to be or where I saw myself, right? Most likely, same is true for you if you're having maybe such kind of job and you would like to transition. Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't watch this video. But for me, for the first 8 months, I expected a totally different, let's say, approach and start because I thought, I will just learn from him and I will have the same success. That's what I thought. I can do whatever, right? I was overseeing many things. I was not thinking about sacrifices I needed to make. That's what I will elaborate on, and other things which came actually on my plate. So when I made like such low amount of money per month to, let's say, survive at that stage, because eventually you want to go from surviving to thriving, right? You don't want to be always in a survival mode your entire life, because that's not where you will find, let's say, your happiness, maybe, because you need to thrive in order to, become better and better and better. But I was actually super hard in the survival mode. I was making money in a cookie factory and I was burning money on the other side with my business because I didn't know what I was doing. I bought a course, but no one was teaching me what to do. And for the first 8 months, before I actually took my first mentor, I lost like all the money that I made, which was around, like, for my age, it's like 18, was pretty decent. Was, I was making maybe 20K or something in a year. And for me, it was, money that I could like miss because I didn't have any, let's say, overhead costs or whatever, because I was living with my parents, right? And in my case, my parents paid for my studio, which was absolutely amazing. Like, I'm super grateful for it. However, I was going to become like a dropout eventually because my business was from one stage from surviving to thriving, and that's where I would like to take you with. So when I started the first 8 months, I had no clue what I was doing. I have no one in my family who was in business. We're not like a family business or whatever. We were not like rich in some kind of sense. We had it perfect, like it was fine. But no one who actually could teach me besides maybe let's say, a mentor, right? That I could hire. But I was having someone who basically offered me a course, but no one I can actually talk to. And I was literally burning, like, I got money in, but on the other side, basically from my back, I was burning money while I was in the cookie factory. So I was actually with my phone. I was managing my Facebook ads. I thought, I was managing it. I wasn't doing shit, honestly. But I was looking at it and I saw literally the money that I was making was like burning on the same time, right? And that was such a horrible feeling because I was literally working for free in that case. So the first 8 months, like, for me, from what I've heard as well from the eventual mentor that I had, he said, I'm actually surprised you're still in business. Like, that's already a win. But I didn't saw it that way because I had also like my mindset that I needed to fix at that time. So with all that being said, there are so many different things you need to think about before you will actually see success, before you'll actually transition yourself from, surviving to thriving. And that is basically little tweaks that you need to make in your business, but also outside of your business, in your environment, to actually accomplish things, right? Because if you keep doing the same stuff you've always done, you will never get a different outcome. But the same is true for your environment. It might sound very hard and harsh. If you keep hanging around the same kind of people who basically you started with, is not a big problem, but if they don't help you and they don't, let's say, make it in some sense positive that you can actually thrive, right? Then they will hold you back as an anchor. And that's basically what I felt as well with some people. So I needed to get rid of people in my life. And I basically made a lot of sacrifices at that point, just because I felt to. And it was during Corona as well. So I thought, I have nothing to lose. I can't even see those people right now. So I can better right now just focus on myself, just like going full monk mode. Even though I didn't know what monk mode was, that was actually what I was doing for the first years of business, unconsciously, because I was like on myself. I just had my brother. My brother was also in business when I was in business, and we just talked to each other, but we haven't like spoken to anyone. I had a girlfriend where I um, stepped away from in some sort of sense as well with my friends, because I had other like priorities at that stage in my life. And for those right now maybe who also have some sort of like feeling that they maybe hang around people right now which might not help them in that stage, that is completely normal. I can tell you, like, you don't need to be feeling like embarrassed or whatever to get rid of people right now in your life. That doesn't mean that you don't need to talk to them or whatever. I did it very harsh, let's say, in some sort of sense that I ignored like a lot of people as well. But that is not needed. I can tell you that you can definitely talk to people. But if you have, for example, step away from people right now, that does not mean that they won't be in your life maybe later. You can just be very upfront with them. Hey, it's not right now a stage in my life where we match with the same kind of values, right? And those values should match, in my opinion, in order to, let's say, have that person as well help you along the way and vice versa, right? So it's completely fine that you will lose like people around, like, while growing, right? Otherwise, you will maybe still be with people and you will have, let's say, some feelings, um, of maybe anger or whatever because you're like growing, right? But if someone is holding you back and you are growing, like there is always going to be a gap, and that gap, like that is not going to have a very positive impact. So if you're at such a level or you're growing and someone is holding you back and he or she is not willing to grow, that gap is going to be eventually unhealthy. And that's what I felt, luckily, like in the early stages. So I actually stepped away from those people. Maybe not in the best way, I can tell that, but eventually it did help me because I was so focused, maybe a bit too focused, that I made decisions which were actually necessary in order to thrive, right? And that's basically what I figured as well over the past years, that sacrifices need to be made in order to basically accomplish greater success in life. Because if you're not willing to sacrifice, for example, pair of shoes to replace it, like to eventually be able to replace it by another pair, a new fresh pair, you're actually telling yourself, hey, I'm not willing to get rid of this like old pair of shoes because you have emotional feelings attached to it, right? And you're actually telling yourself that you're not willing to replace it to make space for like new shoes. And that's exactly the way how you also need to approach this. If you're not willing to replace something, or let's say not willing to give away or to get rid of something, then you're also telling yourself you're actually not willing to replace something for something better, because you actually tell yourself when you do so, when you give something away, that you actually have more space to take as well, right? That's basically how you need to think about such kind of situations as well sometimes, in order to make proper decisions which are needed in some cases. So yeah, for my first 8 months until I saw my first, let's say, mentor, which I talked to, he basically told me the same kind of things, like not in this direct sense, but in some sort of sense that I need to get rid of things of my business in order to replace it with better, like structures, right? To, for example, improve conversions for my store in e-commerce, that time drop shipping, right? So yeah, I think it's super important to understand that you need to learn from people who are, of course, already at that point where you would like to see and be yourself, and that you should listen to what they're saying, because most likely they're giving you advice that might not be maybe like the things you want to hear, but it might be needed in your situation in order to grow. So I think that is super important. That's what I've learned, because I was literally burning money, and some people already told me, hey, why don't you take someone who's already there, who can guide you? I said, I already do have one. I have someone, at the other side of the screen, basically, for my course. But that was not, of course, going to give me the results that I wanted, and at least that I've saw for myself, because I saw like people younger than me, maybe, when I was 18, maybe people from 16 having business in the Netherlands, and they were thriving like crazy. Like honestly, they I've never seen such money before in my life, because when you're not in business, you're not involved, you won't see many things that are happening behind the scenes, let's say. But if you see that people like 16-year-old kids are making millions online, then you think, I never thought I would even be able to make a million, because I always thought, I will go, to college and then have a job and like that standard life, right? Which is nothing wrong with that. But I was not even aware of, let's say, those things being able to achieve. And that's also a thing, like you will eventually surround yourself with people that you might feel very uncomfortable with, because they are doing maybe numbers and things that you would never be able to think of that was like possible to accomplish. And that is the exact moment, like when you feel comfortable, where your growth will lie, where it will lay, right? Where you will actually be able to grow in. Feeling uncomfortable most likely is going to be a situation where you're able to grow yourself as a person. And besides that, from you growing, your business will grow, because your business will never outgrow you. So that is super important to understand. And I think it's with that also the case that people are not willing to get into this situation, because they don't feel like they are, let's say, able to do it, all right, or that they are, let's say, unqualified to do certain things. That's at least what I felt super unqualified to do things, but that is exactly where my growth basically was. And that's where I stepped into, with basically with the help of my environment, because I surrounded myself with those other persons, in order to grow. So that's, that's that compounding effect that will take place. And all those kind of little shifts along the way will make you eventually, move and thrive by time. And that is super important. So, like I said, after my first mentor, I went literally from 182 euros on my bank account to 40,000 euros in sales in 1 month. Like, I can tell you, as a kid from 18, you're making 40,000 euros in 1 month. You think you're like, you're the king and you can do everything. You're a god, right? But that's basically what I thought. And at least, it was giving me some sort of good energy. But I needed to also, understand that, and I did, that there was just the beginning and there was much more going to come. Also, things I would fail at, which was normal, and he made me aware of. And that's basically the point where I also understood at that point that there were going to be hard times as well. Like, even when you make 40,000, you think you can handle everything. Honestly, you will have so many more things coming up, because the more you grow, the more problems will arise. But the more problems you solve, the better you will become. So that's basically a part of the process. And if you're not willing to fail, you're actually also saying no to the success. So, yeah, basically, with that being said, I learned a lot even in my first 8 months. But even, let's say, my ninth month, when I saw that 40,000 euros, you know, there were a lot of things changing. And from that point, my entire perspective changed. I basically wrote a letter to my parents to tell them, hey, I would like to stop school and go all in with this. I'm so confident, this and that. But I needed to, I basically knew from my parents, because my father is from Spain. He is a lot of he is a very different character than most likely the people from the Netherlands. And he was going to interrupt me if I was going to tell that, right? So I knew that. So I wrote a letter. I said, can you please just read it entirely before giving some sort of opinion or whatever? And he did. And afterwards he told me it's fine. And I was actually like this, right? Okay, what is he going to say? But he finally accepted that I wanted to drop out of school or college. And basically he was paying for it. So it was actually something that I hesitated about a lot, but I needed to do it in order to be able to grow as a person. So yeah, they were of course not super happy with it, because we have always grown up in a way, we've always been taught as well, and my father himself as well, that we go from middle school to high school to university, and then we go to work. That was the normal path, right? But I was a strange bird in the family from that case, as I was the first dropout. But that's something that you need to have in order to break the chain. So that's what I did, which I never regretted in my entire life. I told them as well, I'm going to go back to school if it doesn't work out. But I knew, of course, that I was never going to do that for sure. So you will see so many things also along the way when you're in business, that you're able to achieve so much more. And I learned more 4 years of being in business, my first 4 years, than my, maybe let's say, my 13 years that I was in school. And that's just the truth. So they now see it as well. They give me compliments about my, how, let's say, how I've changed as a person, and it makes me just very proud. And that also keeps me in mind, always sharp, when there are distractions arising. Hey, keep focused. You're on this road right now. You're just starting. You basically promised your parents you were going to have success with it, and do your best. And that always keeps me sharp on the moments when I feel distracted, right? When things arise, that I can step out of my business and do other stuff. But that's actually something that keeps me always sharp, and I'm super grateful for it, because that is my I don't want to say my why, but it's something that drives me. And yeah, my parents, like I said, my parents are together with my family, but especially my parents and my brother are my most important things in life. Besides that, I value fitness, I value business, but I do know where I do it for. And that's, of course, for myself. Otherwise, I can't help the people around me, but also the people around me eventually, of course, which is, in my case, very important. So, yeah, with that being said, there's always going to be a bumpy road. And the bullshit stories that you heard right now on social media, that's what I wanted to tap into, are basically annoying. I can tell you that. And people are being misled. If you're an aspiring or an existing entrepreneur and you've heard it or seen it, guaranteed that people are talking to you, hey, in 2 weeks you'll be driving a Lamborghini, in 2 weeks you will be in a private jet, or you have a Ferrari under your butt, right? I can tell you that's not going to happen. Okay, you're not going to be rich in 2 weeks. That is just not going to happen. Like, people are misled and they deserve the truth. So I'm just telling you right now, get rich quick scheme doesn't exist. And if you're right now chasing for something or you're looking for something, to get rich quick, you can better skip this video as well, because I'm not going to tell you any saucy like details or whatever on how you can get that, because it's not going to happen. It's a part of a journey, and a journey can bring you success, can of course make you millions for sure, but you need to be also be able to uh, and willing to fail in order to succeed, because you will never ever be able to succeed. First of all, because you don't know what success is, because you need to understand what failure is. And failure in the sense that you will get up and move forward and not fail and then stop, because that is not going to get you anywhere. Otherwise, I would have quit after 2 months already, in those first 8 months when I was starting. But I didn't do it, and that got me that success, right? And for many people. But how they right now frame it is that you will get rich within 2 weeks or within 2 months, and that you will driving that Lambo. That is not going to happen. Okay, super upfront. So ignore all those bullshit stories from people telling you that. I can tell you, it is not true, not like honestly. So make sure you never look at it that way, or like start in business because of like you think you will get rich quick, because it's just not going to be that way. And that doesn't mean that online business isn't right now an opportunity to go in. Like honestly, I think online business is way better from my experience than paying 100,000 euros for like a student to be a student and to have a university loan, right? Because you need to pay it back in for many, many, many years, and you will eventually have a salary which will allow you to, let's say, pay back 50% of your salary or even more per month towards that loan that you took. And in business, you of course will also have costs that will be involved, but you will learn way more. Trust me, honestly. You will actually go out on the field. You will play the game instead of just reading about it, and that is going to be the difference. And I think even if I would have like a 9 to 5 job right now, I would step into it. I would still be better off than I would have like an um, just like an a degree. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what I feel. And yeah, so the opportunity that online business brings these days is real. Like honestly, I've also made a big chunk of money with selling products online, but it doesn't mean that it just was given me like that way, like easily overnight, boom, right? That overnight success might be an overnight success of 6 years, 5 years, I don't know. Depends on how quickly you learn and adapt, of course, and how quickly you apply stuff. If I would have applied it earlier, then it would not maybe take me 8 months. It would take me 1 to 2 months, right? But I could also have ignored it for another 2 years, and I would be like worse off in that case. Or maybe I would have learned a lot more, who knows? But that's the part of the journey. That's the part of the process that you need to understand, and you need to be willing to do. And like I said, sacrifice along the way. Because if you're not willing to sacrifice, then you're not going to achieve much. I can tell you that. So my things that I wrote down as well, like treating it as a real business, and you will see real results. What I mean with that specifically is, look, people who get, for example, into drop shipping, how they when they hear the term like drop shipping, they're already super aware, super conscious. All like the warning signs goes off, because there are a lot of things that I go over with drop shipping from people who scam, and those people like are just shit. They don't know anything about business. Most likely, they're just there to scam people, and most likely they won't come very far. Maybe make big money right now, but easy comes, easy goes. So you need to understand that it is a real business. You're treating with real customers, and like for example, me, but also others, we would never be able to get into this business model for 5 years if we would treat this business as shit. Because if you treat it like shit, you will get shit. But and what you sow, you will reap, right? So it's super important to basically sow it with the right kind of like mindset and input, because that will equal your output. So that's super important to understand, and eventually you will see real results. So besides that, you're starting an online business. My main thing why I started an online business was to get more freedom. And that's the freedom what I have right now that I'm able to accomplish. Or right now, living with my grandmother just for one more month. but just, in a small apartment. But that's completely fine to me. What your freedom is doesn't mean that needs to be the freedom of someone else, or for someone else that needs to be your type of freedom, right? I will be here right now to also understand, okay, hey, back to the basics, understand basically where you come from. And I will have a better time maybe as well when I will be on my own in 1 month from now, somewhere else in Madrid, whatever I will do. I am able to go wherever I want and I would still be able to make money. That's the part of online business. And that's basically what I wanted, what I chose. But if you want that and you don't do anything, then that's something what I don't have much respect for, because I see a lot of people screaming a lot of things also online, and they are saying, "Hey, I want to do this. I've tried it, and maybe they've just tested one product and they quit, and they say, yeah, I want to do it so long, and they come to you this and that, and I don't have much respect for those people in the sense that they think that they know a lot about the business while they haven't tried anything, and they always have something to say behind your back. That's what I've seen as well along the way. But you need to be able, and that's the next thing, to be willing to be criticized, because there will always be people screaming at you, and you have to understand the people that basically scream you out or that calling you out, right? Those kind of people, actually the people who always will call you out or who will say things behind your back are the people who are below you or under you, because you will never basically see someone above you criticize you. Never. You will never see Cristiano Ronaldo, like, he will never be able to criticize people underneath him. He will never do that, because he thinks as well, like, they're all on their own journey. He understands what it takes to get there, and that's hard work, that's a sacrifice, and that's also, of course, some sort of talent, and maybe luck, how they would call it, but most likely possibilities. Right? If you put yourself in the right situation or the right possibility, you have more chance to succeed. And the people who are just like, when you're on the same level as them, then and you don't do anything, then they will hate you. But if you're above him and they are still there, they will hate you as well. So anyway, you will be criticized. You need to understand that you will not be put, let's say, on an on a plateau, like, where people will like clap for you, whatever. That's not going to happen. Okay. So you should understand that, and I think it's important to be willing to get criticism from people, because you will only get criticism from the people who are underneath you, like under you, and they would like to be there where you are right now. So that's super important, and I think all of these things combined sum up basically how I went from, let's say, absolute zero, from Cookie Factory, like I said, to be able to do more than 5 million euros in online sales with my dropshipping and e-commerce stores. And that has been in many countries for the details of it. So think about countries like Netherlands and Belgium, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany right now. Those are the countries I always focused on. And I think there are so many more possibilities for the European, let's say, arbitrage, right? Way of dropshipping, or even branded dropshipping. So there are many possibilities. And I have not seen many people, if they focus 12 months on the same business model, like for example, dropshipping, that they won't succeed, honestly. But the thing is, there are so many people, like I said, just screaming things right now, all the kind of bullshit stuff about, seeing success in all kind of business models, which can definitely be, but that will also give you like some sort of like, um, some sort of feeling that you can do anything. And of course you can, but you need to have focus in the beginning. You don't want to focus on 2 or 3 business models at the same time when you're just starting. You can definitely like basically grow yourself and scale to different business models by time when you have, for example, outsourced an entire business. But in the beginning, you want to have focus, you want to have see results, because if you spend 50% of your focus on one business model and the other 50% you spend basically on another business model, right, then you will see 50% of the results. You will never able to see 100% of the business results for that business if you just spend 50% of your time. That's not going to be so. You should understand that, and that's just focus. And let's say the shiny object syndrome, that's something you need to basically get rid of by not willing to get into all the business models and opportunities out there, because there will always be opportunities, millions nowadays. But you need to say no to specific things in order to say yes to other things, and that is basically what's going to get you from A to B. So if you want to succeed, my biggest advice to you right now, just focus on one thing first, And of course, keep your eyes always open, but be able and willing to say no to things, to say yes to other things. Because if you say yes to like all the things right now, you're also directly saying no to the things that might occur for you or might basically be able to get on your plate later. And that's always a sacrifice you need to need to make. So I heard someone also saying one time, you need to take vitamin N. And I said, what is vitamin N? The vitamin of saying no. And from that moment, when I heard that, it was like, that shiny thing, like, oh, I saw basically what he meant. And it was like, when I say always yes, I also say always no, indirectly, because you'll never be able to take more than 24 hours of your day to do specific things, because we all have the same amount of hours. But how you basically spend those 24 hours, that's basically going to make the difference between person A and person B, who sees success and who maybe is still struggling because he's tried maybe 5 million different things, right? And didn't see the success, while the other one was just focused on one thing. And if you're, for example, 5 years in business, but you have, like, say, tried 8 different things for 1 month overall, then you don't have 5 years of business. You have eight, let's say, months of business. And you have 8 years of business for just 1 month. And that's not going to give you, let's say, that momentum that you need in order to, let's say, getting back to what I said earlier, to thrive. So with these things being said, what helped me from getting like from 182 euros while being a cookie factory worker to, let's say, 5 million euros, 5.3 million euros already in online e-commerce sales, was by focus, of course, but all the other things that I just mentioned, and most likely sacrifice, being okay with failure, and that failure, see it like as a lesson that you will get stronger, right? That you will get an upgrade every single time, that you will level up as a person. Because if you level up as a person, you're also being able to level up your business, because business is just a reflection of how you are and how you develop yourself as a person. So if you don't have time to develop yourself as a person, you're actually saying no to the development of your business. So that is super important. And with that being said, I just want to stop it here. I think it has been a lot of things that I've shared, which helped me, which I focused on, where you should also focus on and maybe not, in order to see maybe your success quicker if you were willing to start, or if you're already an existing like entrepreneur and you're maybe also struggling with the same kind of situations, and basically you're facing the same issues that I faced. So I hope this was helpful. Maybe you know someone as well who needs to see this. Feel free to just share it. And then I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in next week's video.